Hello, friend. Mamas, this is an episode for you. Today, we have the honor of having Madison Brewer on the podcast, and our hearts are so dang excited. Madison is 27 years old and was born and raised in Piedmont, South Carolina. She has been married to her truest and best friend, Johnny, for almost 5 years. They have 2 precious babies, Elle, who is 3.5, and Juna, 1.5. She is a wedding, family, lifestyle, birth, everything photographer, and now a fresh doula or birth coach. Jesus saved her at 4 years old, but she didn't start truly following him until her sophomore year of high school. She is so in love with the Lord and has never been more confident in the gospel of Jesus Christ. She says life with him is pure joy and an adventure. Let's welcome Madison Brewer to the podcast as we get to know a little bit about her and her testimony on what the Lord has done in and through her life in the last 2 years. Let's do it. Welcome to the Refined Sisterhood podcast. We are your hosts, Maddie and Kate, and we are here to chat about all things motherhood, faith-infused entrepreneurship, and lots of real life. We want you to leave feeling loved, encouraged, and a whole bunch of excitement for where the Lord has you right in this moment. We are so glad you are here. So grab your coffee, matcha, tea, whatever makes you happy, and let's hang out and indulge in some joyful conversations. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Maddie and Caitlin here, and we are so freaking pumped because I have a dear friend that is on the episode today, and her name is Madison, and I'm just so stoked for this episode. She is a doula and a birth coach. Birth coach. Yeah.
Right.
And
interchangeable.
Yes. And she has a lot that she's going to speak on regarding like what the Lord's done in her heart over the last 2 years. And it's just really, really exciting because we're all moms here. And like, I'm literally over here fangirling over your job. So this is just so exciting. I know. It's so cool. Okay, Madison, we're about ready to jump in. And we always love to do a little fun fact. And we know that yours is that you've been taking Hebrew classes for like 2 years. Like, what made you want to do that?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, I hate that question when someone asks me like, what's a fun fact? Because I'm just not a fun person. I'm just
Oh my gosh.
No, really. My sister is such a fun person and I'm just not. I feel like I'm just not interesting. So my husband actually like reminded me like, oh, well, you've been, studying Hebrew and doing Hebrew classes. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll put that down. So this all started with my friend. One of my best friend's dad speaks and teaches Hebrew. And she was like, you want to start doing this with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. In the back of my head thinking like, this is not going to be something that lasts. But it has like 2 years of Hebrew classes every Monday night. It's really hard, but it's really good. So like the first portion, we literally have like kindergarten booklets. We've like learned the alphabet. We learned how to read it. And then the second half, he does like a Bible study and like shows us the Hebrew words. So yeah, I'm just a good old like Hebrew student now. And
so like, can you like speak Hebrew? Can you say something in Hebrew?
I mean, I can literally just say like, Hanukkah or so yeah, I cannot like speak Hebrew to you right now because it's really hard right now. I just have the alphabet and I can read it. Like, if I was to see a sentence, I could read it. I should have like got a sentence, but yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So cool.
And I hope and pray that I stay with it because I feel like as a mom, it's hard to stick with things like that are not your job or like, your whatever. But so I'm like, okay, I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to do this.
For sure. I have one of the things when I had Keegan, previously before having Keegan, I wanted to learn sign language for like years. And I took it when I was like in elementary school for a few years. And so I knew like the basics, but I've always wanted to learn sign language. And so after having him, I was like, this is my excuse. Like I'm teaching him sign language and I have learned so I can pretty much like do the basic words that like kids would use or we would use in our daily life. And it's just so cool.
I think
it's like
an adult,
accountable.
Yeah. And as an adult, when you're learning something new, you've been out of school for so long, your brain almost like has to like wake back up.
Yeah.
I can like feel my brain hurt. So I can only imagine with sign language. It's
no, I feel like Hebrew is way harder. No,
it's probably on the same level. I mean, it's pretty hard. But
that's
good.
so
rewarding, very rewarding. If anything, just like the community to be with my friend and her dad on a Monday night, and like he's full of wisdom. So if anything, it's just been good to like be poured into by someone who's older and been there, done that, and much wiser than me.
Mm-hmm. So cool. Okay, well, that's awesome. Whenever I need a new baby name, I'll come to you.
Yes,
maybe you can give me some cool Hebrew names.
Actually, our lesson like 2 weeks ago, we were like learning Hebrew names. So
that's so awesome. I'll have to keep this in mind. Okay, I'm really excited to dive in. We're going to let you just kind of navigate the conversation. We want to hear your heart, and we want to hear how the Lord has just kind of refined you and your career and just like who you are over the last 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I feel like the last 2 years for everyone has been kind of crazy. And we've all been in this almost like waiting game of, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure y'all can relate to that, of just like everything that's been going on in the world, you know, COVID and shutdowns, and just, I like wanted to take that as an opportunity to just like surrender to whatever the Lord had for me, and to seek his face in that. And I say seek his face because I think even in like Christian culture, we tend to make our Christianity and our relationship with Jesus about us. And like, what is Jesus going to do for me? Like, how is he going to propel me forward in this? Or almost like he's our little keychain. Like we just take him with us and we do whatever we want. And we just pray that he approves it. As long as we, you know, put a Bible verse on our Instagram story, we're good. So I was like, Lord, no, like I want to seek your face. I want to know more about you. And when in the process of that, I know that I will find my true identity in you. So I think we sometimes get that opposite. We try to find our true identity in ourselves and tag Jesus along, when really we need to find out who he is and let him tell us who we are. So
that's good.
With that, I just started praying big prayers and just like wanted to see the Lord in everything. I was like just hungry for him. So then like one day I'm a photographer. That's kind of how I know Maddie, is through like the photography world. So one day I got this phone call from my friend Emily, and she was like, hey, I'm expecting in about a month and I'm going to have a home birth. So I was wondering if you would be interested in photographing it. And I was like, heck yeah, that's amazing. I already was obsessed with birth. I had at the time one daughter, and I was 7 months pregnant with my son at the time. So I was like, yes. So I prepared, you know, I was just waiting for that phone call. And it came at like 3 a.m. She had to call me like a few times because I was dead asleep. So I got over there and it was just amazing. The whole setting was just super, I don't even know the word, I guess, like holy, like a holy hush, like over this whole bedroom. And Emily just seemed to have this team. She had her husband, she had her birth doula, and 2 midwives, or maybe a midwife and like a midwife assistant. And just had this team of people who like loved her and seemed to have also prepared to help serve her. And so I'm just over here in the corner, you know, photographing it. And everything was just so beautiful. And I immediately just felt this like just swelling in my chest and I knew, like I had felt this feeling before. So I knew this was the Lord. And I was just like, well, Lord, I mean, what are you trying to call me to? Like, I didn't know yet. Like, I just knew like there was something in this and it was stirring something in my heart. So after I photographed the home birth, it was beautiful. Everything was just perfect. And I went home and I had told my husband, like, this is awesome. And he was like, are you wanting to have a home birth? And I was like, oh, no. Like, I'm having Juna in 2 months. Like, I'm not having a home birth. That's not what I'm saying. I just loved how Emily kind of, though we don't have true control, she took ownership of her birth.
Yeah.
She was strategic about having certain people around her. And she knew how she wanted things to go. And then she also knew, like, if things don't go that way, then I'll do it this way. So I just love the fact that she, like, made it her own. I think we tend to just like go one route with birth, and we get like our mindset on this one thing. And like, the doctor says this is how it's going to be. And we're like, yes, of course. Which I think is great, but I just love that, like, oh, there's another option. There's choices. So at first I thought, well, maybe it's just like, I want to have a natural birth. Like, maybe that's it. Like, maybe that was the feeling. So I like prepared myself for a natural birth. I like did some research, and I was like, okay, I think I want to give this a shot, not to compete in any way. It was just something I wanted to experience myself. So I did it. I had a water birth at the hospital. It was great. Wow. It was beautiful. I learned a lot about myself. I kind of like saw it as an opportunity to truly lean on the Lord, because that was obviously the most pain that I had ever been in, the most vulnerable. Even if in my first birth, I had an epidural. I did, everything really like mainstream, and it was still the hardest thing that I had ever done. So it was just a change of mindset, I guess. So after that, I was like, man, this was really empowering. But what I found is that I wasn't so much the most proud about the natural birth. I was just most proud about the way that I prepared and the way that I had true, like, informed consent over decisions. And my husband was kind of my doula. I like made him read the books, and I was like, do you think you could do this for me? You think you could like coach me this way? And he was like, absolutely. He did great. He's actually a football coach. So he was in his element. He did great.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was like, I want every woman to feel the way that I just felt, because no matter the outcome of the birth, you could still look back and feel great about the people you had around you, the mindset that you were in, no matter the circumstance. I actually listened to both of y'all's birth stories a little while ago, and they were beautiful, by the way. And I know that y'all are probably both still like processing those still to this day. And you will probably honestly process them for a very long time. But I was just like, I want to be an asset to women. Like, I just want to serve them. So I learned that a doula literally means woman servant. And I was like, I think this is the route I'm going to go. I can get certified. During COVID, you have to be certified to like go into certain hospitals. But I think pre-COVID, you don't technically even have to be certified to be a doula. I guess anyone can be a birth coach. I really believe that. I believe anybody can be a birth coach. If you have the calling and the heart for it, like, I think a lot of women have that naturally in them. I think that's why we're drawn to this topic.
Yeah.
So I did it. I was like, okay, I'm going to get certified. I did, the classes. It was really hard as a mom, even though it wasn't like college level. It was still like reading books and taking quizzes. So it was awesome. But then the rubber met the road, where I had my first mom who was like, okay, I'm going to give you a shot. And I was like, oh my gosh, do you know that I'm like brand new? And she was like, yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Like, if it's not you, I didn't really care to have one. So like, come on. So I did back in February. I had my first birth where I was the coach. And the whole time I just felt like the Lord was confirming this calling and this was like put inside of me. And I think he gave it to me that day at Emily's birth. I think he put it inside of me, and I've been thankful ever since. But I've also second guessed myself too ever since. So when Maddie, like, I was really struggling with like just self-doubt, and like, when you start anything new, you almost have this like imposter syndrome. Like, oh yeah, okay, I'm a certified birth doula, but I'm not like that girl, or I'm not like this lady who's been doing it. So I was like, who am I? I'm so annoying. Like, I'm posting all of these things on social media because I'm just passionate. And then Maddie, you reached out to me and you were like, can we interview you? And you may not have realized it. I was literally in prayer while you messaged me. I think I told you this. Like, the Lord through you, it was just like confirmation. Like,
that's so
I
awesome.
gave you this gift. Don't doubt it. Like, run with it. So here I am, like, this little birth doula / birth photographer. I'll still photograph, your birth too. So that's where I am now.
That is so cool. Okay, so I have a question. So for people like me, I don't know anything about what doulas actually do other than like, I mean, I know the idea of it. Like, okay, right. They help you throughout, like, they support you and they're there during your birth. But like, what part, I don't know. Tell us a little bit about like what you actually do, like through pregnancy in the not in the hospital at home, wherever you are. And then kind of like tell us where you feel like the Lord is at, like during that process.
Yeah, that's a really good question because I would have people message me on Instagram. They're like, oh, so like, would you replace my OB or my midwife? And I'm like, no, I am a birth coach professional. I'm not a medical professional. Yeah. So what I will just like practically walk through like what that would look like if you were to hire me. So you're 9 weeks pregnant and you believe you possibly might want a doula. So you would reach out to me and we would have like a free consultation, just hang out, make sure that we actually like mesh, it's very important. You could have the most seasoned doula who maybe just doesn't mesh with your personality or your lifestyle, and it wouldn't be a good fit. Wouldn't be a good person to have in the room with you during this huge moment. So we would kind of figure that out first. And if you decided like, okay, I really like Madison, I want to kind of further this along. So we would have a prenatal appointment where we would just like talk about if you had a birth plan. And if you didn't have a birth plan, I could share with you some options that you may have. Or if you're a first-time mom and you have no idea what to expect going into the hospital, like me, my first time, I had no clue like the things that were going to happen or the order. There's so many things that happen to you and the baby that you have the right to decide on, but you don't know that you have the right to decide on. So I could just like, these are your options. I'm not here to like push my opinion on you. That's not my job. My job is to like help educate you and then, cheer you on in whatever decisions you make and help advocate for you. So we would just kind of play that out. That's what I've been doing with one of my friends right now. She's due in June. She called me yesterday and she was like, do I like want to take like stool softeners? And I was like, good question. I personally definitely wanted stool softeners after I had a baby. But if you're kind of second guessing the ingredients, like look that up, research that. If you don't feel comfortable taking something over the counter, girl, bring in something natural. So like I'm kind of just there for you to like help you navigate this like journey. So then when labor starts, of course, you'd give me a phone call and I can help you decide on if you like want to go into the hospital now or labor a little bit at home. Mainly just like support you at that point, like emotionally, like get your mind right. Because at, early stages of labor, sometimes you might not need me physically. So though when things do heat up, I'm there to like physically support you through contractions, whether that's, counter pressure, hot and cold, like compresses, acupressure, all the things, prayer, words of affirmation. I know that there's actually some birth doulas who are like certified in something called spinning babies. So spinning baby, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but spinning babies, like gets you in certain positions to like get baby to an optimal position for delivery. So literally just your cheerleader and support, and also there to support your partner. I never, ever want to replace dad. I actually want dad to feel like I'm an asset to him and he can actually enjoy this moment and he can also feel supported. And if he needs to step out and take a drink of water, then his wife or his partner is, taken care of and loved. Especially during COVID when you could only have like one person. Some people I think didn't have anyone at all. Yeah. It's important to, labor and delivery is a big deal. It's huge. And I don't think that we stress it enough. I think we downplay it too much. And then when you have women who experience labor and delivery and you hear their stories, you realize, wow, this was a big deal to them. Like I heard you guys' story, and like Caitlin, when you were processing, like just like you felt like you may be having a panic attack.
Yeah.
I'm such an empath. In that moment, I felt your words.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I wish I could have just been there to like stroke her hair and pray for her. And, and that's another misconception. People think that doulas are only for the natural minded mom. And
that was actually going to be my question is, right. I know I had a C-section. So like, could you be in the room with someone with a C-section?
Absolutely. So like doulas all the time are in there in C-sections, whether they're, emergency or planned. I know that because of stupid old COVID, I know certain hospitals probably have certain rules, but pre-COVID, absolutely. And I think certain hospitals are actually getting back to where doulas can be in the operating room. So what that may look like, so for example, I was talking to my friend yesterday and she's like, okay, in the case of a C-section, what are my options? How can I still make this my own? And so I laid them out on the table. I was like, you can still do this, this, and this. If you want, I can still be there to keep your mind healthy in a good place. I can also support your husband if he is feeling squeamish or whatever it may be. Because sometimes dad takes baby to a different room and mom has to go to recovery and she still needs support. And then my job doesn't end there, then there's postpartum. So right now I'm just offering one postpartum visit. And then if you feel like you need more, I can come and help with breastfeeding if you want to breastfeed, or help you weigh out your options for what kind of formula you may want to use, or all the things. So some doulas go as far as sleeping in the home and taking care of baby at night. I don't think I'll do that because I have children of my own, but it can really be as much or as little support as you actually feel like you need or want. Yeah. So that's
I have so much to say. First off, it's so funny because one thing, looking back on my birth, Caitlin and I had very different birth stories, and if y'all haven't listened to our birth story podcast episodes, I encourage y'all to go listen to them so you can get to know a little bit of the difference between, we had polar opposite birth stories.
Yep.
But walking through, I had Keegan 4 weeks early, and I remember going to the hospital. I thought I had all this time to prepare. I thought I had a month left, but I remember on the way to the hospital, it was kind of I just had to make it work. But I wish, and it's now something a conversation I've had with Sean and been I wish, we didn't know what we were doing. It was our first time ever doing this, but I wish I would have had someone that could have been I know you don't know what's going on. I know you don't know what to do, but I'm here to step in and help you navigate this and figure it out. Because I remember I had weddings that weekend that I had to shoot, and Caitlin's over here sending emails for me, and Sean, the whole way on the way to the hospital, he was just figure out the next 2 weeks before we get to the hospital, and then once we get to the hospital, you're putting your phone away, and but still, I knew he was freaking out, and he was freaking out, and it would have been just so awesome and encouraging to the both of us if someone could have just been there and been as soon as we walked in, take a breath. It's going to be okay. Because once you get to the hospital, it's bam, bam, bam. So many things are going on. They're asking you all these questions. And if it's not, for me, I was not expecting him to be here a month early. And so the fact they're asking all these questions. And I'm just wait, I'm having a baby? What? I was I don't, I remember walking in and they were okay, what's your birth plan? And I was birth plan? I thought I had a month to plan this, but I was just I don't want a C-section. I remember saying that, and they were okay. And I was I should have probably elaborated, if I needed a C-section, okay, don't just let me die out. But but I just remember being I don't want a C-section. And then they were okay. And then I was do I know what I'm doing? And the whole time I was in the hospital, I remember there was one point too, we were YouTubing stuff because the doctor, it was so busy. Yeah, it was ridiculous. it's funny now, but we were like in the hospital and I'm like feeling certain ways. We've called the nurse. They're not coming. Like they were just so busy. And Sean was like, all right, well, let's just YouTube it. And so we're like YouTubing. And then I'm like, this is probably not the best for me. Like, I probably should not have been watching this. But it would have been just so like awesome to have someone be like, okay, like because I'm a person that I have to know everything. Like, that's just my personality. I have to know like point blank, okay, this is why you're feeling this way. This is what's going to happen next. But I was just like, sink or swim. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And then it's funny you said the whole thing, like if your husband has to walk out. I remember we were just going, like not getting a break at all. And Sean had to pee so bad. And he was like, he was like, I was in the room like about to push because I had gone into this room, like this holding room or whatever. Because they were trying to get me to stall my labor or whatever. And then they moved me to where like the big lights are, you know, like you're ready, like this game time. My water still hadn't broke yet. And Sean was like, Maddie, I'm so sorry, but like, I've got to pee. And I was just like, oh, okay, like, sure, I guess. But like, okay. And then they come in as he walks into the bathroom and like starts peeing and they break my water in a matter of like 2 seconds. And I'm just on the table like, y'all, did this just happen? Like, my husband's not in here and they just break my water. And he comes out and they were like, yeah, her water's broken. And I was like, what just happened? Like,
right.
You know, and so but I think there is
no fault. Okay, I want to be clear too. It's no fault of the medical staff at all.
Right.
Like they, like you said, they're very busy with keeping everyone alive.
Yeah.
They're not so concerned. I had a really great labor and delivery nurse with my oldest daughter, Elle, but for the most part, their priority is to keep you alive, not to let you have this great, wonderful, supported, heard birth story. Like they're like, girl, that's not my job. And I think people think that doulas and nurses are going to be like at like bumping heads. And I'm like, no, every nurse that I've ever spoken to like appreciates a doula in the room to be able to like help mom, you know, move side to side if she has an epidural, because you have to move flip so often and like get her some ice tips. So like the nurse doesn't have to be doing that. The nurse can be doing her other duties. So
yeah. And I think, like you said, I do think that is a misconception because pre-COVID, I did photograph like a handful of births and I loved it. But I feel like it was this misconception in my head. I know that like nurses and doulas and doctors just hated each other. I was like, they don't get along. Like they're not on the same team. But like you said, that's complete opposite because like you said, the nurses are not there to sit here and like, I had great nurses too. And they held my hand through a lot of stuff. And like, I had one where I told her, I was like, I cannot be left in the dark. I need you to tell me exactly what's happening. When I got my epidural, I looked at her and I said, you're going to tell me when it's being inserted, like, because that's how I need to be. And she held my hands and she just taught me, she was like, all right, this is what they're going to do. And like, they were great. But at the end of the day, they're not going to sit in there. They have a job to do. They're not going to sit in there for hours and just have this peaceful, holy experience where we're playing worship music and speaking affirmations over her or over me and praying.
And I'm sure they'll do that to an extent, but at some point they have to go on to their other patients.
Exactly.
It's the same, like, and I'm not saying that if there's nurses out there listening and they're like, well, this one doula that I had, you know, I'm not saying that all doulas are perfect. I'm sure there's some out there, but I'm not doing my job if I'm not also like working well with your medical staff or your midwife. The same, like in the photography world, you know, you hear the stigma of like videographers and photographers button heads. And I'm like, I've never actually had that problem. I'm not serving my couple well if I'm not working well with their other teammates that they've hired. So I'm not doing my job well if I'm not working well with your nurses or your doctors or your midwife or whoever you have, you know? Right. So that is like not my intent at all. Like, I want you to be like, this is so peaceful. Everyone's getting along. This is great. Like, I'm not coming in guns blazing, like ready to fight.
Madison's here. Buckle up, everybody.
Right.
Yeah. So, I also love that you said that there's also really another big misconception. And I know my husband had this too, when I talk about our next baby. Now, I might change my mind when the time comes, but right now I'm like dead set on wanting to have a natural birth. And so, but I remember having this conversation with him like right after we had Keegan, and I was just like, I think like I can do it. Like, I think I really want to try it and all this stuff. And I said, like, I think I want to have a doula. And he was like, what? Like, why? Yeah. Cause like, it's like in his head. Yeah. It's like in his head, like it's taking away from him, or like he's not going to be a part of it. And I do think there is like that misconception for sure.
That was, so I did like a little poll on Instagram the other day about like, why would you not have a doula? And the number one reason was they felt like it would take away the intimacy between the husband and wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And I was like, man, like I was talking to Johnny about that. I wanted to get his perspective because I didn't want to dismiss that at all. Like I had to sit back and reflect like, okay, would I pass on a doula because of that same reason? And so that's very like a valid point. But I think that if you meet with a doula, at least meet with one, you know, just like, let's go in with an open mind. Let's get to know it. Bring your partner with you too. And I think your mind would change. I think his mind would change. I think for me, I don't know about everyone else, and this is not like in a bragging way. I just know this about myself. I feel like I'm really good at reading a room. So if I feel like mom and dad need a moment, then I will step out. I don't think that you could probably, I bet that there is 1,000,000 to 1 women who would say, I don't regret having a doula at all. I loved it. And I would also say, I bet there's husbands who are like, I loved our doula. Like she actually let me be in the moment more. She like actually allowed me to be more intimate in this moment more. I wasn't worried about all of these other things. I could just be there for my partner. So that's one thing I'm doing now is I encourage dads to come, and I can actually teach them how to support mom. And that way we can trade off. And I think like dads have actually kind of enjoyed it. Like, cause I feel like men tend to want to fix things. So if we're equipping these men on how you can fix things, help, it makes them feel empowered too. They're like, I can actually help my woman, you know, like Madison's teaching me techniques to actually be there for her versus like just holding her hand and being like, oh, I don't know what to do, but I'm here for you. Well, that's really sweet, but that's not very helpful, you know? I would definitely, to anyone who is second guessing for that very reason, just meet with a doula, just meet with them. And then like, most doulas just have consultations anyway, like no strings attached, no pressure. Let's just have coffee and then make up your mind about it. And I promise, I don't think there would be a case where a man would walk away and be like, I wish that lady wasn't here. You know, I really don't.
Yeah. I feel like like I said, there were times where Sean would have been like, thank goodness if he was being honest, like I get a break because we were there for a while and like no sleep. And then by the time you're on the mom and baby side of the hospital, like you are exhausted because nobody has had neither one of us had a break. So I feel like if like they knew this, they would be like, okay, yeah, like heck yeah, like I can get 5 minutes during this to myself because it is so much at one time. And then you have like this adrenaline dump, you know? Also, I will say from my perspective, there were so many moments, obviously, we're photographers. We want the moment captured, but specifically like with C-section, a lot of times you can't, like they need to take the baby immediately. And I know some places you can like do skin to skin immediately. You can breastfeed. I don't know how people do that. After doing it, like, I think even if they put Beckett on me right after birth, like, I think I would have been so like, I don't know what's going on, like whatever. But anyways, Hunter had to walk away so many times and like go and he would video or like take pictures for me so that I could see what was going on. And like, it would have been really nice in those moments when he walked away to have someone, because I did have some nice nurses who like behind me, they were like encouraging me and like making sure I was okay. But I feel like it's different when your job is literally just to be there for like affirmation and like to comfort, because I think that would have helped me a lot. And plus, with C-section, I didn't know really what to fully expect, and neither did Hunter. And like I mean, as a whole, men don't always know what women need. And I think that, like you said, equipping them with that ability to be able to comfort us in the middle of like literal trauma to our bodies, I think that it would be really helpful. And so I'm like considering this for my next child.
and it goes farther than just, oh, it's just rainbows and butterflies and this would make for a really great experience. Like, this is like, science backs this up. Like statistics, they've done so many studies on like blind trials of, they've had like, hundreds of women go in for labor and they like didn't know this was happening. And then they assigned a doula to just a random amount. And there's significantly better outcomes for these moms who had doulas. I want to say, I actually wrote this down because I'm like really bad at remembering statistics. I just don't have good memory. But studies have shown that having a doula as a member of the birth team decreases the overall cesarean rate by 50%, the length of labor by 25%, and the use of Pitocin by 40%, and requests for an epidural by 60%.
Wow.
So now, if you're not against any of those things, that's totally fine. But like, there's something to that, there's something to that. And so I'm like, it's science-based. It's not just like, me being like, oh, you'll love me. But I'm like, you may, you're just, you're backing yourself up. Like you're surrounding yourself with a great team. And at the end of the day, yes, you can't control everything, but you can do your best, I know that now that y'all are mothers, you probably didn't realize the weight that your labor and delivery would have later. As a first time mom, you're like, okay, I'll have this experience for a day or two and then it'll be over. I'm like, no, those moments like carry with you. You're still processing them. I remember both of you said that you're like the next child, you want more, but you're kind of nervous about it. And it's like, well, maybe there's still some stuff that you need to process, I want women to not fear labor and delivery. I want them to be excited about it and feel confident about it. Because I believe God made us do this. I believe that's why he gave women a womb. I believe that we were meant to be mothers and we're not meant to do life alone. So if there's women out there who want to specialize in this topic and come alongside of you and help you, bring them,
Yeah, I love that. It's so cool to hear you talk about this because like a year ago, whenever I was pregnant and preparing to have Beckett, the thought of a doula, it crossed my mind, but like, I was like, do those even exist in South Carolina? And I never really looked in, like, I was like, I don't feel like those exist around here. Like maybe in California, but I never like, I don't know, people around here are like not all natural and stuff like that. It's, people think we're like weird, but all for the all natural. But anyways, literally, I remember like thinking about it and just being like, that would be cool. But like, I don't really know what they do. I don't know if I would need that. And like looking back, I think it would have been so helpful because there was a lot of decisions that I had to make, specifically when I had to make the decision about having to like flip him or not. And that was something that like first of all, I had a not great experience with my 36-week appointment when they told me he was breech. And I feel like I could have immediately called a doula after that and like bawled my eyes out and been like, okay, what do I do? And I feel like you could have like clarified some things if I would have had you there or like just help me like make that decision. Cause even Hunter, like he was like, I mean, I'm leaving it up to you. It's up to you and I trust you and like we can trust the Lord on this. And it was just like one of those decisions where it was like, I hope I'm doing the right thing. Like, I think I have peace about this, but like, I didn't really have anyone to ask because no one in my life had ever done it before. And so anyways, I think it's really cool that you're doing this and that like, I know you now. Cause like, I think in the future, whether I have a C-section or whatever, like whenever the next baby comes into the picture, I think it would be really cool to like have you alongside.
Yeah. Hit me up. I was actually, when I was listening, I was super proud of you, Caitlin, when you said like, we just decided that we didn't feel good about trying to manually flip him. And so we did it. And I was like, I don't agree with one way or the other towards flipping, but what I was excited about is that you made that decision and you were like, and that's what we went with. And I want to empower more women to make those decisions, natural or not. Like really, I mean, yes, me personally, I'm a naturally minded person, but I actually love working with women who maybe don't want to go all natural, but they are interested in some of the other options that they can make their birth still their own. So I just want more women to feel like they're in control. I hate that we live in a culture where it's like we're just left to whatever the experts say. And I'm like, no, like you've been given a God-given intuition. And I'm here to like encourage that. You asked, how does the Lord fit in with this job? Right. Yes. You do not have to be a Christian to be a doula. There's a lot out there that I follow on Instagram, and they're really great and very educational, but they're not spiritual at all. And I think the Lord has everything to do with this job. First off, it's a way to just serve, like to literally be the hands and feet of Jesus. Like a few months ago, man, these topics, the last 2 years, I tend to be an argumentative person. I don't know. It's just new, like this newness, maybe becoming a mother, like becoming a mother has like stirred something in me. But as a follower of Christ, I have to like rein that in and let that, I have to like repent often. So I remember just some topics coming up and me like wanting to just like prove my point, and like, I just want to have a voice. I'm just going to tell you how it is. And the Lord often speaks to me in dreams. I know some people think that's weird, but I know that the Lord gives me these dreams, and the Bible's very clear about dreams. So one night I had this dream where I was in this big conference room with like all of these people who were not like-minded as me. Like we did not think the same. And like, they were, fussing their side. And I like stood up on the table and I was like, you know what? I like looked to the ceiling and I was like, Lord, give me the words to like pretty much to tell them off, And the Lord spoke to me right then and said, get off the table and wash her feet. And when I looked down in my dream, there was this lady and she had like a little pedicure bowl at her feet. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, I have goosebumps right now. It's like the Lord's reminded me of this. Like, just such a humbling moment where like, I thought that I was in the right to reach out to the Lord to give me the words to like be right. And he said, get off the table and like paint her toes pretty much. So I did. And I feel like this is my way, that no matter what kind of woman you are, what kind of, background you have, it's my opportunity to like wash your feet and to probably literally like wash your feet and other things. We'll get real close. You get really close and intimate during labor. So I've been trying to really remind myself of that dream every day. Like I have to just live in this constant state of just humbleness and repentance and submission to the Holy Spirit, because because we live in this social media world, we tend to want to like find our platform. Like, I'm going to be, like you said, you feel like there's not a lot of doulas around. So I'm like, this is my opportunity to like capitalize. Like I'm going to be, Madison Brewer, the doula of the upstate, but it's like, it's not about Madison Brewer. Like if I serve all these women and they feel great afterwards and I have not shown the love of Jesus, then it's worth nothing. Like I could just, walk away now. So that's my prayer is like, Lord, humble me, like rebuke me when I'm wrong. Keep me as your servant through it all. So that's where I'm at.
So beautiful. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Everything you just said is so like encouraging and empowering, I feel like, for women, because I don't know, just when you get pregnant for the first time, there's so much, like, especially for me, someone who's never experienced, like, I've never photographed birth like y'all have. I never like watched birth videos. That freaked me out and kind of grossed me out, like not my journey. But I didn't know much about it. And I just feel like that, like having a doula come alongside you, it would help to encourage and empower. And I feel like that's what you've done in this episode. And we're so thankful that you've done that. And before you go, we just want to ask you to give our listeners one piece of advice, like surrounding this topic. Like if you had to give someone who is like they just found out they're pregnant or they plan to be pregnant or they're like very, very pregnant, like give like one piece of advice for them to like take away or encouragement or whatever.
Okay, that's really good. So, man, that's tough. I was prepared to give advice just in general, which I guess this can play like this can run over. But originally, my first thought is that we need to be in God's word. Being in God's word gives us faith, gives us wisdom, gives us knowledge. So, and I think that's in all walks of life, whether you are about to take on a new job or you're about to have a baby or whatever that is. I think that being in God's word, not only are you in God's word, but now you're drowning out the voices of everyone else. I think women, we're more vulnerable creatures, I think, in general. And we tend to want to people please. And because we want to protect our child, we feel like, well, okay, tell me what to do. Like, I want to do the right thing. And I think God's like, hey, I'm not just here for you on church on Sunday. Like, I'm going to be here for you through these 40 weeks. So if you want ultimate wisdom, if you want like ultimate knowledge and peace, you come to me first. And I think that if you go to him first, he was going to send people your way to help you through this journey. So I would start there, like start in your Bible. Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. And you're right. It all starts with us surrendering to the Lord and us like just diving into a more intimate relationship with Jesus. I actually said this in our podcast episode that released a few weeks ago, that the closer I get to an intimate relationship with Jesus, the more like I can drown out other things. And so that's so awesome and so encouraging, Madison. Like, I'm geeking out over this episode. I can't wait to like, I know we're recording it and I cannot wait to just like keep replaying it and replaying it and then sending it to Sean and be like, yeah, play this for yourself. Like you just did so good and you spoke so awesome on this topic, and a topic that there isn't a lot of education around, specifically for new mamas, or just like we talked about earlier, like we fall into the mainstream of what we're told we're supposed to do. And so there's not a lot of education on if you do decide to go this route. So thank you so much for being here. And thanks for being my friend and my future doula.
You both have a friend in me. Thank y'all. Like, thank you for giving women a platform to be able to let the Lord speak through them. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I feel like if, obviously people aren't listening right now, but when they are listening, if there's a woman out there who feels like, I want to get, like, maybe I could be a doula, but maybe I can't because that's her thing. Like, don't listen to that. That's the enemy. I'm here to encourage you. If you are interested in this, like, you can reach out to me. I will give you all of the resources I have. I have books that I had purchased that I no longer need. I'm nobody special. Like, I literally, like, I'm one of 5 kids that all of them are so successful. They're in the medical field. And I'm just like a mom and a wife over here. I literally just felt a calling on my life. And I was like, Lord, this is going to be hard. And he said, it's okay. Keep going. So if you think I'm just not capable of that, like, that's a lie, and you are capable, and I will help you in it, whatever way.
That's awesome. And okay, going along with that, we're going to need you to plug yourself. We need the shameless plug, the website, the Instagram handle, whatever. How can people reach you?
Yes. So I'm not real fancy. I use Instagram for everything. So if you want to find me on Instagram, it's at Madison_Brewer_Doula. So yeah.
Awesome. Yay.
You just DM me there and you'll find all of my stories and my babies mainly. It's pretty much my kids' Instagram, but find me there at Madison.Brewer.Doula.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Madison. You'll probably be hearing from me and Maddie in the next year or so when we decide to pop out another child at some point. But Anyways, thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for listening. Mm-hmm. We know that you felt encouraged listening to this, and we hope that you learned something. I definitely did. Mm-hmm. It was really cool to listen to this topic. And like Madison said, if you need to reach out to her, whether for doula-ing or just like advice on being one, reach out to her. Her handles and everything, it'll be in the show notes. And yeah, just thank you for being here. Don't forget, we launch new episodes every Wednesday. So come back next week, and we hope you all have the best week. Bye. We had so much fun getting to hang out with you today, and we hope that you're feeling encouraged, loved, and full of purpose. If you've enjoyed today's podcast episode, we would absolutely love it if you would write us a review so that we can hear how we encouraged you. And if you haven't subscribed, go do that right now. Also, you can join the sisterhood by finding us on Instagram at The Refined Sisterhood. Okay, friend, we hope you have the best week, and we will see you in the next episode.